I'm here with Braeden Ruud, who is the founder and CEO of Raised Right. I think you said, what is it, which is human grade pet
Yeah,
food? Is that what it is? That's a
it's a human grade pet food company that makes home cooked style whole food recipes for dogs and cats, and we also have a line of single ingredient liver treats as well.
we met, I don't even know how many years ago it was when you were at Babson and I was teaching there. And I do remember when we first met, and I was, to be honest with you, a bit skeptical, but I tried not to show it. I was like, I didn't really understand the industry. I made you some connections, but so I want to learn today about your journey because now, where are you now? How many stores you in now? Hundreds?
Yeah, around 800 stores right now.
Amazing to me when I remember the days when you were struggling to even realize if you had a business or not, but you were tenacious, you were driven, you knew what you wanted, and you sort of like hunkered down and got it done. And so I want to know, and were there moments when you just questioned whether you should just get a real job?
No, I always believed. I saw in the whole beginning when my mom started cooking for our pets because she didn't trust any of the food out there after the big contamination outbreak back in 2007 that resulted in thousands of dogs and cats becoming sick and dying. And seeing how friends and family and neighbors wanted my mom to start cooking for their pets too because they just didn't trust the food they were feeding their pets. I knew that there is a deep-rooted need for this. And there was a lot of challenges that we'll get into that we ran in along the way trying to make it happen, but I knew if we could get to market and build a supply chain that we could be successful.
So, and can you give me some example of the types of people who have mentored you either officially or informally during your journey over the last few years? Like, what did that look like? And maybe some specific examples of conversations you have had or support you got.
Yeah, fortunately for me, I went to Babson where I met you, and I was surrounded by so many amazing mentors, people that were entrepreneurs that are still entrepreneurs. And Babson does such a great job. It's easy to see why they've been ranked #1 in entrepreneurship for all these years. They have such an amazing support system, from not just the classroom being very hands-on, but also their accelerator they have there. And they have a variety of programs as well that are called outside of the classroom. And I really made it my mission to get out of the classroom as much as possible and to get involved into as many different things as I could to try and learn from as many people as I could and meet as many people as I could. And it's amazing how so many people went out of their way to help and expected nothing in return.
I did say that I was skeptical, but I'm always not surprised, but I'm pleasantly thrilled when a past student of mine, who I didn't understand their business at all, and I just try to listen as much as I could, got from where they were to where they are through a lot of different things. But can you remember moments of people who mentored you or coached you in that moment? Babson in the early days when you were like, this is this idea I have, but I really have no idea where I'm going here.
Yeah, I remember in the summer venture program that I met you in when I did the first round of interviews. I wasn't accepted. They said, we've accepted quite a few businesses at this point. There's only a couple spots open. We're going to have a final round of interviews in a month from now. And here's the things that if you can make them happen in this time frame, that you might have an opportunity to be a part of the summer venture program. And I remember Dr. Caroline Daniels, who is one of my professors in my LEAP program, which is the program in the Babson's MSCL program, where in the second semester for your capstone project for the whole semester, you can work on a business idea. Unfortunately, Raised Right was accepted to be worked on, and I had 3 classmates helping me with it. And you know, she kind of took me aside and she said, listen, you know, you got a month. You know, that might not seem like a lot of time, but if you put the hours in, it's a lot of time. And I believe that you can do everything that they said they'd like you to do and more. So, you know, do everything you need to do to still, you know, get your grades and pass the class and get your degree. But, you know, she said, I know your goal is to come out of here with a potential business in hand. And so she just said, just, you know, put your nose to the grindstone and get after it. And I did. I you know, there was you know, they said that they wanted me to come to them with a viable box that I could ship cold product in.
Wow.
And fortunately, one of the guys I played hockey with in college, I played college hockey at Curry, which is outside of Boston, for 4 years before I went to Babson. His girlfriend's dad had a cold chain solutions company, and just out of the goodness of his heart, he worked with me, did a cold chain validation test study, and I went back in a month later with a proper box. I think the first one I went through, I wish I had a picture I could show you, but I think I went to a liquor store and I got one of those coolers that are those little styrofoam ones, and I slapped on a piece of paper with a logo, and that's what I walked in with in my first interview. So looking back, I'm not surprised that you were skeptical and everybody else was skeptical.
I think I was naively skeptical because you know, I don't, you know, I have a cat, but I would never ever spend the money on high-end food for my cat. She's right here. Sorry about that, Molly. But I do think that it's sometimes as a mentor, it's hard because you don't understand the industry that your students are in and the people you work with are in. And your job is a little harder. Like someone says, oh, I want to do a tech startup around this. It's like, oh, that sounds wonderful. And then all of a sudden it's like, I want to do human grade pet food. And you're like, what? I don't really get it. So you had actually a harder sell to all of us who were trying to help you, who either didn't have dogs. I think dogs were what you were focused on at that time. I think that's what it was. But, you know, it was a harder sell because we didn't, you know, like this, you know, I was talking to a guy this morning from Kuwait who had a donut shop. Like, I eat donuts, I could help him a lot easier. But the reality is, a mentor, you've got to step back and say, he's passionate about this. Let's help Braeden get somewhere and let him get there and let him use his sort of strength and intuition and brilliance to sort of turn this thing into a viable business. So that's sort of, I'm really happy to do that. Now you're in hundreds of stores. You were what, the cover of what magazine did you tell me that you were in?
Pet Food Industry magazine.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
They put us on in October and did a real nice story on us. That was really cool. That was really cool. And that's kind of in the pet industry, for pet stores. That's kind of the magazine that most of these stores read, and that alone was, I mean, we never paid anything for it, and it was some of the best marketing we ever had. As soon as that came out, there was a lot of stores that reached out, and
PR is like the best way to get the word out, social media and PR. So, you know, you it's interesting. So your first experience with mentors or business experts were like, yeah, go do this, right? Go do this. It was a challenge to you. Were all of your mentors in that challenge mode, or were some of them kind of a different? What's the, if you think of other mentors, either formal, long-term, short-term, something about the relationship that stood out for you besides just being, you know, like almost like the Wizard of Oz, bring me the broom, and like, yeah. And they get surprised when you show up with it. So bring me the packaging, and then they're like, oh, I wasn't sure I really meant that, but then you get to keep on going, right? So is there any nature of those relationships that stand out for you?
What's really interesting is looking back. Playing hockey my whole life, I really draw off of those experiences a lot, and I saw firsthand how big of an impact great coaches can make on your performance as a hockey player, and also not just your coaches but also your teammates. There's always something that somebody does better than you, and you can learn from them. And so I think mentorship can come in all forms. It's not just from people that are much older than you and much more experienced from you, but I've learned a lot from people that are younger than me and less experienced, but they have something that they're really good at, that they're better than me at, and I try to learn from them. And so I think a lot of it boils down to trust. And as a younger guy, I try to meet people who I can trust, and because if you can't fill them in on what's really going on, if you can't really trust them to fill them in, they can't really help you because they're not giving you advice on what the actual situation is. So we had a saying in college that, we want foxhole people. We want people that if the bullets are flying, that that they're there, they got your back, and you can trust them. And the mentors that I've been so fortunate to surround myself with are all people that I know if the bullets are flying, they're hanging in there for the fight. And not only that, but they're gonna put on their general hat and figure out a way to get out of there.
Now, many people watching this video are going to be mentors themselves. So what do you suggest to them in order in a way that shows them how to build that trust early on after they meet the person they're mentoring? Do you have any thoughts about how that happens?
So much of it, I think, is about feel. You look somebody in the eyes and you can tell pretty quick what kind of person that person is. I don't know, maybe some people don't get that vibe, but I feel like I've always been able to get a good read on people. And somebody could have the most immaculate background in the world, but if you look them in the eye and you kind of feel like there might be a hidden agenda here or something, you can't trust them. And so for me, it's kind of a vibe, but at the same time, I think the best mentors and the best leaders are the ones that care the most. They want to ask, they want to listen, and they truly care about how you're doing. And it's not for their own personal interests. It's because they want to see you succeed, and they really care. And it's not just about your business that they care about. They care about you. They're asking, how's your personal life? How's your wife? How's your parents? And they, so many of my conversations go well beyond business. I'll ask them for advice of many things, So I guess that would be the best way I could explain that.
So I'm going to jump to a conclusion. You're a small town guy who grew up in Western Canada, surrounded by, bison and whatever. Like, does that have any impact on this trust and sort of your calmness about what you're doing? You think that not coming from the big city, the crazy city, helps you in that or not?
The funny thing about small towns is if you're going to be a bad person, everyone's going to know you're a bad person. You're going to walk down the street and you don't want to feel shame, so you always want to treat people well. You always want to do the right thing. And because you don't want to be you don't want to have no friends, and you don't want to be looked at as a bad person. And at the same time, you don't want to bring that kind of shame to your family because they got to live in that small town too. Yeah. And so I think there's definitely something about that. And growing up on a ranch too, you talk about trust. Those animals, they got to trust you. They rely on you. If you don't feed them, they don't live. And if you don't check on them regularly to make sure that they're not sick and they're all doing okay and they got food, they got water, again, they don't live. So there's a pretty deep rooted responsibility that comes with that when something's life is in your hands. And it goes through the same thing with Raised Right. These pets' lives are in our hands. So we wanted to make the safest pet food possible so that people can trust what they're feeding and not have to worry about, some crazy thing happening from being in the food.
So, so you're kind of in a family business to some extent. I mean, it's your business now, right? It's your business, right? Not your family's.
Yeah. So my parents are both involved. And so my dad, he now deals with all of our ingredient sourcing. So he took that off my plate probably 6 months after we launched. And then shortly after that, he took over managing the production facility side of things.
And your mother's involved as well?
Yeah. So she's our chief nutrition officer. She recently has been having to take care of my 92-year-old grandpa. He moved in with my family because of this whole COVID situation. And so she's kind of almost been a full-time nurse. And so she's kind of taken a bit of a step back for probably since March. But before that, she would come to the trade shows and she loved doing that. And she was really, really great at that. And, she was really she was how the idea came to me, because she was cooking for our pets, and she was really the inspiration for all the time that she was taking to prepare food for our pets. And she was the one who reached out to the veterinarian we worked with to formulate our recipes, veterinarian Dr. Karen Becker, who's also been an amazing mentor of mine. She's an amazing person. If you look her up, Stephen, I think she has almost 2 million Facebook followers now.
Wow.
I believe she is the most followed vet in the world, and for good reason. She's on the cutting edge of research on animal nutrition. She's made some amazing documentaries, one called the Dog Cancer Series, where she went all over the world interviewing oncologists, not just on the human side, but on the pet side, and other doctors. And she's doing amazing things. So I've learned a ton from her about nutrition. And yeah, so it is a family business for sure. I definitely could not do it all by myself.
Your family still runs the ranch, right? Is that separate?
Yeah, that's separate. Yeah. So my brother's more the point guy on that. I haven't been as involved in our family ranch since we launched Raised Right. I was a bit more so in the early stages, but as we've grown, I have no time for anything else.
Yeah. And so, I know at Babson there's a strong family business center. Another place there are family business centers. We see, at least I see, and where part of the world that I work in, there's this real challenge with keeping children involved in a family business. Tell me about the family as mentor. Like, is that different from a professor as mentor or an expert as a mentor? Like, is there something there about how they work with you in a way that does inspire you and doesn't say, come on, mom, I gotta do my job?
Yeah, the family business dynamic is a funny one. It's I think any filter that you'd have in any other conversation in a family business relationship is out the window. So my dad and mom would definitely talk more direct than any of my mentors, and that's obviously natural because they're my parents. And it's not to say that the mentors I have aren't direct. They're very direct, but maybe they say it in a nicer tone, and so you know, my dad, he's a pretty experienced guy. He's been an entrepreneur for most of his life with the ranching, and he had a management consulting business, which he still does a little bit of. And there was a big corporate backed farm that he was the CEO of for a number of years, and he did a huge road show where he raised over $100 million for this company. So he's went all over the world, Dubai, South Korea, New York City, everywhere to go and raise those dollars. And he understands a lot about business. And, you know, I think the thing he probably draws the most on is his management consulting, where if a farm is in trouble financially, they reach out to him, and he tries to help guide them through getting back into the green.
So you talked before we turned the recording on, you talked a little bit about a lot of your travels to try to sell, going to trade shows, knocking on retail shop doors and all of that. When you were, you know, sales is everything, as we know in entrepreneurship. We don't always talk about that at the college level. We talk more about branding and experience and all that. But the bottom line is, without customers, you don't exist. Can you talk about mentors in that process where you had doors shut in your face, success, failure, like, you know, the grind of the road? Like, where did that, you know, who did you depend on during those times when they were challenging or exciting?
So the person that immediately comes to mind at this is Sharon Sinnott. You might remember her from the Summer Venture program. She was the one that worked with all the businesses as they're preparing for their big TED Talk style presentation. So she's Babson's director of public speech, and she really took me under her wing and worked with me. I went and saw her frequently as I was preparing for any pitches, presentations, but I still reach out to her about adapting our marketing messaging very, very regularly. And you know, she you know, at Curry, she also teaches there too. I took her class called the Art of Persuasion, and that's really what sales comes down to, is trying to persuade someone to believe in what you're doing. And how she goes about that is unlike anybody I've ever met. And I tell anybody that goes to Babson, book in with her every chance you get, and keep working on your messaging, but also the execution of how you say what you say really makes an impact too. And you know, that's probably the biggest thing. I know Warren Buffett, that's like his number one advice is learn how to public speak and how to sell. And that's really, like you said, that's everything. If you don't have customers, you don't have a business.
Right. So, you know, what I'm seeing in you, compared to when we worked together at Babson, is this level of clarity and confidence, which I didn't always see in those days, right? So clearly you have built a sense of confidence in yourself and your business over the years. And were there mentors? Might have been her, might have been other people who helped you build that confidence so that you present in a much more strong, you know, you just feel better about who you are. I see that so remarkably different when you were in school. How did that happen?
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know, I don't know. It was in the Summer Venture program. I kind of almost felt like the underdog coming in. You know, I was one of the last businesses picked, and I saw there's some, you know, businesses that were much further ahead. You know, I know like Hanson with ThinkBoard was already selling for years, and I think he announced he made his first $1 million that summer or something, and I was like, we are not even close to launching, let alone making our first mill. And so I, you know, a part of me felt like, you know what, you want to prove people right. You want to prove people that you belong there, and that the chance that they took on giving you a spot over giving somebody else a spot is worth it. And I think that's one thing that comes from mentorship is, there's a ton of people that you got to prove wrong, a bunch of people that are naysayers and don't believe, but those people that believe in you, you really want to prove them right. And they instill confidence in you for sure. They see something in you, and that really means a lot. And that really goes deep with me. Is I want to prove them right, that they believe, and that really means a lot.
I remember, and I've debated this issue a number of times since my time at Babson. This notion of being tough on people. I remember there was the hot seat, and it was pretty brutal. The approach that was used, which I didn't always agree on. So, as a mentor, is it better, like when you get advice or support from people, is it better to be tough on you, or to be that, more soft and more welcoming and be really nice? Like, what do you think is that balance, being someone who might, I don't know, what's better for you, or how do you handle it with other people? Is that toughness?
It's funny. I had a coach my first year of college, and he was talking about exactly this, and he said that he treats people differently. He knows how people react. He said some people, they need that, call it tough love, and there's other people that they respond much better to a more softer, delicate approach. And I think it's about trying to understand the person that you're mentoring, and you can learn a lot by their background. I feel like a lot of people that have played sports their whole lives, or they have a military background, they can respond much better to call it a tough love situation. Others that maybe haven't had those experiences, they get that kind of tough love situation from somebody outside of their parent. I've seen people crumble, and so it's up to you to use your judgment of what style to approach with these people. And I think a lot of mentors either have their style or they don't have their style, and maybe they don't want to change it to the person, and maybe they're not the right mentor for that certain person because of that. But there's definitely people that'll be Jekyll in one scenario and Hyde in the other scenario.
I think that's like a piece of wisdom that I haven't heard. I've interviewed a bunch of people about mentorship, is that it's different, it's not different of the mentor, but actually for the mentee. Some people respond positively, negatively, depending on the approach. I'm kind of really intrigued with this notion of sports and the correlation between sports coaching and entrepreneurial coaching. So you've been through both of those. And of course, coaching is a balance between team coaching and individual coaching. Like, how do those come together, sports versus entrepreneurial coaching?
I think they are very, very similar. I find so many similarities between sports and entrepreneurship. It's, at the end of the day, I mean, unless you have there are one-man consulting businesses kind of thing, and there are other businesses. I read a book called the One Person, $1 Million Business. I think that was the title. It was a really good book. But even in those businesses, it's not one person making it happen. There's a whole supply chain that you got to work with. And for us, we've been able to do this through third partying almost everything. And that's allowed us to keep.
How big is your staff?
I'm still the only full-time employee. So we third party our digital marketing, our production facility, our order fulfillment warehouse, everything. And working with all these different people, you know, it's a team. It's a team. You know, even though they're not called directly under the raised right pay stub, we're still obviously paying them, and we're working together. You know, if they don't do their job, people don't get their products. And I really liked it. I love working with other entrepreneurs because they, you know, they really take pride in what they're doing, and they want to do a good job, and they want to keep you as a customer, but also as a teammate. And there's a lot of accountability that comes from that. And there's a lot of trust that comes from that, because I trust that it's in their best interest for them to do a great job, because if they don't, you know, we're going to have to make changes. And that's the same thing in sports, you know, in competitive sports. If you're not doing your job, you're not going to be around that much longer. You know, I played junior hockey before I played college hockey, and how that works, it's basically the same thing as pro sports. You get signed, they own you, and they can cut you, they can trade you. And I've been through the ringer, and I've seen all sorts of scenarios. And so I understand that, you know, you're only as good as your last shift in hockey, and in entrepreneurship, in a lot of cases, you're maybe only as good as your last quarter. And you really got to bring it every day. You know, there's a saying, what have you done lately? You know, what have you done for us lately? And you always got to be on your toes and making sure that you're on top of things and doing a great job.
So besides everything that you've already said, if you think about someone becoming a mentor for the first time, they might have been an entrepreneur, now they're being a mentor. Based on your experience being mentored, what advice do you have for them?
So the question is, if they're a first-time mentor, what advice do I have? You know, I think try to spend more time asking questions and listening than speaking. You know, really try to understand the situation that the entrepreneur is in, that you're mentoring. And then once you have full info, then give your advice. And if the advice doesn't immediately come to you, just say, I gotta chew on that. I gotta think on that. And maybe they want to call somebody that could help them give the proper advice, rather than giving wrong advice right over the phone. You know, it's always best to never speak something that you're not absolutely sure in. And you know, I'm always trying to actively know what I don't know. And if they don't know that either, that's okay. And if they come back to me a week later with some great advice, I'm very thankful that they waited a week and given me bad advice, you know?
Yeah.
And
so if you're a mentor, get mentorship, be mentored. You're saying be mentored as a mentor. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, you know, nobody knows everything. You know, you can't. There's not enough hours in a day.
Yeah. Well, you know, thank you very much for your time. It is so exciting to see your progress over time and the kind of people who have helped you along the way. And I wish you continued success. And on more magazines. I don't know what else there is to get on there. You've reached the pinnacle in your field, but I'm sure there's more. And thank you very much for giving of your time to the next generation of entrepreneurs following you. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for having me, and congratulations on what you're doing. It's really, really cool, and it's really going to make an amazing impact on a lot of people's lives. So, you know, don't hesitate to reach out if there's ever anything I can do to help.
Great. And as appropriate as it is, my cat has been meowing to our entire interview. So she wants some raised right food right now, because that's probably why she's whining, but who knows?
We'll have to get you some, Stephen.
Yeah. Take care. Good luck. And thanks for your time. Bye-bye, Braeden.
Thank you so much again. Really appreciate it.